Imagine being just 10 years old, then looking out your window at 3 a.m. and spotting a giant no human was ever meant to see. Seconds later, you're carried away to a hidden world where child-eating monsters rule the night. But the giant who kidnapped you isn't what he seems. He may be the only one standing between you and certain death. The story begins in a London orphanage, where a curious girl named Sophie is the only one still awake. She believes 3 a.m. is the witching hour, when the world becomes strangely quiet. While checking the windows, she notices a huge shadow moving through the empty streets. Before she can react, a gigantic hand reaches towards her window. A giant has seen her and knows she has seen him. Sophie runs to hide under her blanket, but it's too late. The giant gently scoops her up and races out of London before anyone realizes she's gone. With clever tricks to avoid being spotted, the giant crosses the countryside, leaps over the sea, and finally reaches a mysterious place hidden beyond thick clouds, Giant Country. Inside his cave, Sophie immediately looks for a way out, but the giant calmly stops her and explains there's nowhere she can run. Then everything changes when the giant reveals the truth. The other giants living here are terrifying monsters who hunt and eat humans every night, especially children. If Sophie leaves the cave, she'll be caught within minutes. Terrified, she begs the giant not to eat her too. To her surprise, he laughs. He explains that unlike the others, he's never eaten human. He's different, kind, gentle, and far smaller than the other giants who constantly bully him. The giant admits he only brought Sophie here because she discovered his secret. If humans learned giants existed, they would hunt them forever. Although Sophie promises never to tell anyone, he refuses to let her return home. As they spend more time together, Sophie notices that despite his enormous size, he has a gentle heart. He struggles to speak correctly, and when she accidentally hurts his feelings by correcting him, she quickly apologizes. Slowly, fear begins turning into trust. That night, the giant shows Sophie something incredible, glowing jars filled with dreams. Since Sophie rarely sleeps, he quietly reads her favorite book until she finally drifts off. Once she's asleep, he secretly enters a hidden laboratory behind a waterfall where thousands of magical dreams are stored. Only then does Sophie begin to realize this mysterious giant has a very unusual job, one that could change everything. The next morning, Sophie wakes from a terrifying nightmare, only to discover the BFG created it himself. He wanted her to understand one thing. If she ever tried to escape, the other giants would find and eat her long before she reached safety. For the first time, Sophie realizes he isn't keeping her prisoner, he's protecting her. As the day begins, Sophie learns more about the BFG's unusual world. He survives on a revolting vegetable called the snozpumber and drinks frobskottel, a fizzy drink whose bubbles sink instead of rising. Their quiet breakfast is interrupted when the cruel giant flesh slump eater barges into the cave. Smelling a human, he starts searching everywhere, but the BFG cleverly distracts him until he finally leaves, saving Sophie's life once again. Later, the BFG reveals his real purpose. While the other giants spend their nights hunting children, he travels to Dream Country, where glowing dreams float through the air like tiny living lights. Using his special trumpet, he carefully catches the dreams and stores them inside glass jars, making sure beautiful dreams reach sleeping children while dangerous nightmares stay locked away. Working together, Sophie and the BFG become true friends. But their peaceful journey ends when they spot the other giants returning from London after hunting humans. Then the BFG remembers something important. Sophie dropped her blanket back in Giant Country. That single mistake means the giants now know a human has been hiding there. Realizing Sophie is no longer safe, the BFG secretly returns her to the orphanage. But Sophie refuses to abandon the only friend who has ever truly cared for her. Trusting he'll never let her fall, she jumps from the balcony, and just as she expected, the BFG catches her. Together, they head back to Giant Country, unaware that the dangerous giants have already seen them. Back in Giant Country, the other giants quickly discover Sophie and begin tearing apart the BFG's home in search of her. While hiding, Sophie finds a secret room that once belonged to another boy the BFG couldn't save from the man-eating giants. Realizing more children will suffer if nothing changes, she comes up with a bold plan. After spotting a portrait of the Queen of England, Sophie suggests asking her for help. Together, she and the BFG create a special nightmare filled with images of the child-eating giants. That night, they secretly travel to Buckingham Palace and deliver the dream directly to the Queen while she sleeps. The next morning, the Queen is disturbed by the nightmare. When reports of missing children match what she saw in her dream, she becomes convinced it was real. Sophie introduces her to the BFG, and despite his enormous size, the Queen sees that he is kind and trustworthy. She agrees. While the Queen organizes the army, the BFG enjoys his first real human breakfast and shares his favorite drink, frobscottle. Soon, military planes follow him beyond the clouds to Giant Country. There, Sophie and the BFG prepare one final nightmare to distract the giants long enough for the army to act. As the giants sleep, Sophie bravely carries the nightmare into their camp. When Fleshlambetes suddenly wakes up, she smashes the jar, releasing the nightmare. Chaos erupts as the giants panic. At that exact moment, the army attacks from above, capturing every giant with massive nets and cables. Even Fleshlambeter is finally defeated. The captured giants are exiled to a remote island where they can never harm another child again. Sophie is given a new home at Buckingham Palace, surrounded by people who care about her. Before they part, the BFG promises that no matter how far apart they are, he will always hear her whenever she whispers to the wind. One day, Sophie quietly speaks his name into the breeze. Far away in Giant Country, the BFG smiles. He heard her, and although they now live in different worlds, their friendship remains stronger than ever. And that's the story of the BFG, where courage, kindness, and friendship prove that even the biggest heroes can have the gentlest hearts.